Sorry. Except, fuck, how come you can lean back? And
Ganun.
wag po.
tonight's big stories. The government summons China's ambassador and issues a strongly worded diplomatic protest over the Chinese Coast Guard's use of water cannons against a Filipino vessel. Foreign embassies throw their support behind the Philippines.
President Marcos floats a proposal to impound excess water towards a portion of the Candaba swamp as a long-term solution to flooding. But not everyone's convinced it will work.
And will the EDSA one-time big-time repairs be done in time for the opening of classes later this month? We'll ask the Interagency Council for Traffic later on.
Welcome to the show. I'm Regina.
I'm Gretchen.
And I'm Shawn.
Straight into our big story tonight. There's a lot of big stories to tackle, apart from the fact that we've changed our set.
We'll talk about that later.
We will talk about that towards
But
the end of the
first
show.
off, more serious things.
Exactly. And tonight's big story is, of course, yet another incident in the West Philippine Sea. I'm talking about the Chinese Coast Guard firing water cannons at Philippine Coast Guard vessels near Ayungin Shoal, which many of you would have seen on social media. So let's take a look back at the footage first. What you're seeing is a clip from the Philippine Coast Guard of the encounter, which happened last Saturday. The Filipino ships were on a resupply mission when the Chinese ships started to tail them and fire water cannons at them. The Filipino ships were about to deliver food, water, fuel, and other provisions to the BRP Sierra Madre in Ayungin Shoal, otherwise known as Second Thomas Shoal.
So as you can see in this video, kitang-kita talaga yung difference sa laki ng China Coast Guard vessel at yung pinabombahan ng tubig na Philippine vessel. Almost 4 times ang laki, talagang David and Goliath. We can also see how powerful this water cannon attack was. Kitang-kita yung unti-unting paglaki ng sinaboy na tubig as it began hitting the Philippine vessel. There's also this footage that is more up close from taken from another Philippine vessel. We can really see yung pagfire ng Chinese Coast Guard ng water cannon. In total, 6 Chinese Coast Guard vessels and 2 Chinese militia ships harassed Philippine boats on Saturday.
Now, because of China's latest harassment, President Marcos confirmed that Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo has sent a note verbal to Chinese Ambassador Huang Xilian. Huang has also been summoned to Malacanang to explain the incident. The president says the Philippines will also continue to assert its sovereignty over the disputed waters.
We continue to assert our territorial rights in the face of all of these challenges and consistent with the international law and UNCLOS especially. So that is always been our stand.
Kung nagtataka kayo paano nag-ento, no? May isang ship na nakaabot sa Ayungin or Second Thomas Shoal. Safely. Tapos yung mga sakay ng ibang ships, no one got hurt. But still, this was very, very dangerous maneuvers and not the first.
That's true, and yun na nga, apart from this, encounters in the past, it's not the first time that we got water cannon, but we'll go to that later on.
Right, but for now, no, sabi nga nung DFA, over 400 diplomatic protests, I believe it's 445, have been filed versus China since 2022. This year alone, 35 filed, including the one this morning for this recent incident. Relevant agents have also released strongly worded statements to condemn this incident. The Philippine Coast Guard insisted that its Chinese counterpart was clearly in our EEZ, or exclusive economic zone, and called on Beijing to refrain from conducting further illegal activities in the contested waters. The armed forces, for one, called on the CCG to act with prudence and be responsible in their actions to prevent accidents that will endanger people's lives.
But China is not backing down. It claimed that Filipino ships were the ones trespassing and were carrying illegal building materials. That's why it had to, quote, implement necessary controls. The Chinese Coast Guard spokesman even said that Beijing's sovereignty over Ayungin Shoal is, quote, unquote, indisputable. The CCG said it's the Philippines that has to stop supposed illegal activities in the area. Now, this is what Philippine authorities have to say in response.
Who is China Coast Guard to tell us what to do?
The award is final and indisputable. We demand that the government of the People's Republic of China immediately cease and desist all its coercive, unlawful, and unacceptable activities in the West Philippine Sea.
Now, if you recall, in 1989, nilagay talaga itong BRP Sierra Madre doon sa Ayungin Shoal. Nakadock siya in order to serve as a Philippine post. Claiming
Sobrang tagal
our
na
territory.
That's right. So yun na lang talaga. Wala tayong artificial island, pero meron tayong BRP Sierra Madre. And it's so rusty. So part nga ng provisions, like we always talked about, yung pang-repair nung nasisirang ship, and I think they keep like a contingent of like at least 6 people there. So yung mga pagkain nila.
But ngayon, I think
Yeah.
medyo strong yung statement ng
Yes, it was,
China asking
more
the
sternly
BRP Sierra
worded this
Madre
time
to
around.
leave because it is their territory.
They actually
just-
went out and said it. They said, get out of our territory. And we did not do anything wrong. But we're also saying the exact same thing.
Just one minor correction I wanted to point out is that we've issued 445 note verbal since 2020. Not
Since
20
2022.
Agree.
not 2022.
And then 35 for just
Which
this
is
year
still a
alone.
lot.
It's still a lot.
It's a lot.
This comes-
although we have not seen much of a response.
But I think this one is a lot more definite in terms of where the Chinese government stands when it comes to the West Philippine Sea, as opposed to the earlier incidents, the laser pointing, sinabi nila, aksidente lang daw.
Aksidente lang,
They were talking about their safety,
Kumbaga, umamin
navigational
sila na
safety.
sadya to.
Ito medyo mas deliberate eh. Parang alam nila, they
May
knew
intention.
that there's an intention. But,
and the fact that they're claiming it as still their territory,
Yeah,
of
agreed.
course. Well, because of that, international backlash is growing over this latest incident. As in the past, Washington was quick to issue a statement which reiterated its commitment to Manila. So that statement, in part, said the United States reaffirms an armed attack on Philippine public vessels, aircraft, and armed forces, including those of its Coast Guard in the South China Sea, would invoke U.S. mutual defense commitments under Article 4 of the 1951 U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty. That was attributed to State Department spokesman Matthew Miller. Meanwhile, the Canadian Embassy in Manila said it unreservedly condemns the dangerous and provocative actions taken by the Chinese Coast Guard. The British Embassy said China's action poses serious risks to regional peace and stability, echoing Australia's statement expressing concern over the Chinese Coast Guard's quote-unquote dangerous and destabilizing maneuvers. And for his part, Japanese Ambassador Kazuhiko Koshikawa issued a sterner statement. He said, "Totally unacceptable, any harassment and actions which infringe on lawful activities of the sea and endanger the navigational safety. We strongly support PH's position."
Well, as we've mentioned earlier, this isn't the first time that China bullied Philippine ships using water cannons. Here's what we know. Back in 2014, the Chinese Coast Guard actually used a water cannon to drive Filipino fishermen out of the Panatag Shoal. In 2021, the Chinese Coast Guard also forced another resupply mission in the West Philippine Sea to abort by blocking and spraying water on the Philippine boats. But it's not just water cannons. Remember the laser pointing incident earlier this year? Back in February, a Chinese Coast Guard ship tagged a PCG vessel with a military-grade laser, temporarily blinding some of its crew. Now, just 4 months after that, 2 PCG vessels escorting a small boat on a resupply mission encountered an armada of CCG militia and were pursued by the Chinese vessels. There's also the ramming of Philippine vessels. In 2015, a CCG ship rammed 3 Philippine fishing vessels off Panatag Shoal. And in 2019, Filipino fishing boat Gemver 1 sank after being rammed by Chinese fishing vessel near Recto Bank in the West Philippine Sea. The Chinese vessel simply left the Filipino boat and its 22 crew members.
Now, senators are also strongly condemning this latest water cannon incident. Let's hear some of their reactions.
Stop bullying us at dapat natin ipaglaban kung ano po yung atin.
Walang matinong kaibigan ang nananakit at nangaabuso. Hindi tayo papayag na wala tayong gawin habang inaalipusta niya ang ating mga kababayan sa sarili nating karagatan.
But for other senators, the condemnation of China's attack is not enough. Senate President Mig Zubiri says it is important for the Philippines to boost its armed forces by procuring modern equipment, fighter planes, and ships. Zubiri added that it does not matter if they are not brand new. What matters is that they are modern.
Lumayas kayo mga Chinese. Lumayas kayo sa Pilipinas ang may-ari niyan. We need to help our armed forces, Mr. Chairman.
Let us provide our troops with all the necessary tools they need to equip them in battle. Higit sa lahat, all the necessary tools they need. Higit sa lahat, iparamdam natin sa kanila na hindi sila nag-iisa.
Now let's try to dig deeper into this incident. Joining us live in the studio is AFP spokesperson Colonel Madel Aguilar. Colonel, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening.
On our new set, no less. Colonel, so you've heard us reporting about this major incident that happened over the weekend. We've already talked about, or we've already read the news about how serious it is. This isn't the first water cannoning incident. We've sent more than 400 note verbals to China. But I wanted to hear in your own words, just how serious is this compared to the previous incidents?
I think this is getting more serious now because the attack or the offensive action was quite premeditated. If you will notice, before the RORE missions or the rotation and reprovisioning mission of our BRP Sierra Madre, the shadowing starts at the Sabina Shoal or the Scottish Shoal, which is around 145 nautical miles from mainland Palawan. This time they advanced to Sikatuna Shoal, which is around 90, less than 100 nautical miles. And from there they started to shadow our vessel. And when they reach the entrance of the shoal, around 6 nautical miles, they started to conduct dangerous maneuvers. And then they blocked the way of our resupply vessels. And then, when not contented, they blasted it with water cannons. Now, it was a very dangerous act because, you know, the situation in sea, high waves, around 1 meter high, and then, of course, the wave generated by the big ship, plus the water that is being blasted to our small ship. So this is a very dangerous situation. And at one instance, when one of our vessels was able to break the block, they were able to slip through the blockade. Then they tried to follow, and then from behind they tried to ram the boat. Fortunately for us, because it's a smaller boat, it was able to maneuver fast.
Right.
To
Colonel,
the
I just wanted
port
to
side.
point out that that's quite a serious charge. You used the word premeditated.
Yes.
So what you're saying was that it was not a defensive action by the Chinese boat. They
Yes,
had
it was
planned it.
premeditated. It was planned from the very start. Because how can they position in advance to Sikatuna Shoal if they were not planning something?
Right, but here's the thing, Colonel. Everyone always asking, so ano na? Ano na magyayari, di ba? These things have been happening for years and years now. We just send notes verbal. We can lodge one protest after another. And beyond that, nothing, right? So everyone's waiting for the other side to make the first move. At this point in time, can we consider this an attack? Or because hindi siya baril, hindi bala, at hindi actual cannon yung ginamit nila at tubig lang, is this considered not really an attack, but just sort of an attack?
Gray area tactics.
You may call it a gray area tactics. For a simple civilian, it is already an attack because it is conducted against a civilian, an armed vessel. But from our perspective, it should not require military action. This is something difficult that we cannot just do because it's very dangerous. We don't want to go the situation to be worse. And what is important in that mission, while we only unloaded half of the cargos,
The supplies, no?
the supplies, the food, drinks, and other supplies that our troops need there, at least none of our crew was hurt, and they were able to return the station yesterday at 6:50 p.m.
Sir, you say it's a premeditated attack. Just wanted to expound on that. Did you get word about this? Did you see their movements prior? Kasi nabanggit niyo kung medyo malapit sila this time. How long do you think they've been planning, and why at this point get so aggressive?
I can only say that it is premeditated because the way they positioned, which is different from the previous
So nag-iba
RORE
talaga.
missions.
This time around, it's different.
They went nearer our mainland, less than 100 nautical miles. So what can you say about that? And plus, from the Sikatuna Shoal, they started to shadow our supply boats, including the Philippine Coast Guard multi-role response vessel that were supposed to provide assistance to these small vessels.
Kamusta na, sir, yung BRP Sierra Madre? We know it's been there since 1989. We know that recently inire-repair siya. Kamusta po yung mga troops doon? Have we increased the number of troops that we have there? I know there's less than 10 usually.
I'm sorry, but I cannot disclose the number of our personnel there for security reasons. And as far as the BRP Sierra Madre, it remains to be a commissioned vessel. And therefore, it is the responsibility of the Philippine Navy to man it and maintain it.
Wala po ba tayong planong palitan? Palitan ko? Joke lang. I think this time around, nagulat ako, to be honest, when I was looking through my news feed, I saw statements from different embassies. Tuloy-tuloy yun.
Non-stop. Yeah, may
From
Germany pa.
Japan, UK, Canada, EU, and Australia. Is this the first time that they've all come together at the same time? And US affirming also that any attack can activate the Mutual Defense Treaty. How can we use that?
I think this is not the first time that foreign embassies or foreign governments reacted to this kind of offensive action. Because if you recall the laser pointing incident, I also spoke during that incident, and my statement was that I think, to be exact, I think China should refrain its forces so as not to commit hostile actions that will harm people. So after that, again, there were uproars coming from different sectors and condemnation coming from different countries. I recall the United States of America, Canada, Australia, who else? A lot of countries, including European Union.
But Colonel, let's say it has been escalating, right? That much we cannot deny. You yourself said this time around it's been different, it's been heating up. What would we constitute as an attack? Or worse, what else? What would the U.S. Constitute as an attack, and therefore that attack would activate the Mutual Defense Treaty? Yun yung kinakatakutan natin lahat eh. Nobody, I think, wants to say the three-letter word, right? War. But what would they take as an attack?
I'm not sure as to the language because it's very technical. But when I look at the statement, they are talking about armed attack. And therefore, it may not be just the use of the usual firearms, but when it already crosses the line or when it's already threatening the life of people in that particular incident, when they are about to probably to blast the ship, to sink it, then that's already an attack that may require intervention. But at least we think that our people there are very prudent. They are very disciplined, and that they knew the consequence. That's why even our naval asset there, because we also prepositioned two naval vessels, PS-15 and 17, all of these are patrol ships. When they were all shadowed also by their counterpart in China, they decided not to intervene because it may worsen the situation. What is important is, again, we have delivered the cargoes, only half of it, but the mission of the armed forces of the Philippines remains the same, and that is to protect people's lives. If we are going to intervene, we don't know what will happen.
So if this isn't enough to trigger the U.S. Mutual Defense Treaty, what would you like to see happen from here on? The ambassador is being summoned to Malacanang, we know that. What would you like to see happen?
as far as the summoning of the ambassador, probably that I cannot speak about that because that is very political and that is way above my competency, ma'am. We will always take orders from a competent authority on what to do. Even if what we are going to do next after the incident, how we are going to proceed after with the BRP Sierra Madre there. But one thing is clear, coming no less from the statement of the director of National Security Council. I'm referring to Director Jonathan Malaya. He said, "We will never abandon Ayungin Shore." That's a commitment, and if that is what will be required of us to do, then we will be ready to do.
Sir, pahabol ko lang what would we need to make sure that our outpost there is strengthened? The senators, the president are saying they will modernize the AFP. Ano pong kailangan natin para mapatibay pa yun?
I think the support are already coming in, political, moral, and I think
Financial?
what we are seeing now is actually a united Filipino people that is backing our armed forces. To
Actually,
that we
sir,
draw our inspiration because
While we're on
that
the
is very
topic,
important.
we have been talking about EDSA sites being expanded. How would that help in any way to defend our territory if it comes to that?
Yes, when you talk about the
DHR
EDSA
daw, di ba?
sites, these are facilities that will be established inside military camps, and funds will be coming from the United States, and this will be manned jointly during emergency situations.
Yeah, supposedly it's HDR only, right?
It's
Humanitarian
ADR,
disaster
not only it's
response.
ADR, but since this is part of the Mutual Defense Treaty,
Okay.
you should know very well that it is for the defense of the country.
I don't know if
We're
we're
gonna
allowed
have
to say that, Colonel, but okay.
We're gonna leave it
Because both sides insist it's only for humanitarian response, but we're going to have to leave it there. We thank you so much for joining us tonight, Colonel Midel Aguilar.
Thank you, Colonel.
We're going to pause for a quick one right now, but up next, President Marcos is backing proposals to build a water impounding system in the town of Candaba in Pampanga. But not everyone's convinced it will work. That and more when the big story returns.
Marami tayong babaguhin. Hindi na tayo dapat kukuha ng tubig sa balon. Dapat kumukuha tayo ng tubig sa ilog. Dapat pag umuulan, kinukulikta natin yung tubig. Dahil hindi naman tuyo ang Pilipinas eh. Pero nagtutuyot tayo dahil hindi tayo nag-iipon ng tubig. Kaya't yan, kailangan matuto na tayo. At ganyan ang problema na hinaharap natin dito nga sa climate change.
Yep, that was none other than President Bongbong Marcos weighing in on climate change and its impact on our flood situation. The chief executive had a busy day today assessing the damage in affected areas in Pampanga and Bulacan. The president met with local officials in San Fernando, Pampanga. In that meeting, a proposal was floated to channel excess water toward just one portion of the Candaba swamp. Officials explained that the flow of water from elevated areas and mountain lands will be directed away from the town of Candaba, which currently serves as a catch basin. Right, you can see we do have videos of this. If you didn't cross the North Luzon Expressway and miss the flooding, here we go. We have a video. Up to 15 feet high floods in some areas in Candaba, as you can see here from this drone shot. So ginagamit nila dyan to get around Bangkana. Now, it's not only in Candaba, but other coastal towns in Pampanga also experienced severe floods like Apalit and Macabebe. Also, the flooding in San Simon affected NLEX traffic for days after the weather cleared up.
Former DPWH Secretary and now MPTC President Babe Singson floated the idea of diverting water from the Candaba Basin. Singson said only a portion will be converted for this and not the entire swamp area. Here's what he said specifically.
Out of the 2,000 plus hectares of Candaba, pwede ba yung gobyerno bumili ng 100 or 200 hectares? Kayo na magsabi kung saan yan, and then we will do the impounding doon lang.
Of course, the plan did not sit well for those living in Candaba. Pampanga Congresswoman Ana Bondok had this to say, which later on the president himself addressed.
At dyan po sa Candaba, dyan po nag-umpisa ang hukbalahap movement. If you want a security problem, sirain niyo po yung hanap buhay po ng lahat ng mga magsasaka sa Candaba. Mag-walk out po kami dito.
We will find something else for them to do. We'll find another piece of land. Hindi naman natin sila pababayaan.
Thank you.
Pag nangyari yun, magre-resign na ako ng DA dahil mali na yung aming, hindi na tama yung aming plano.
So were officials able to come up with a decision on this water impounding project? Let's ask our palace correspondent Maricel Halili. Mase, what's the update?
Reg, President Marcos is banking on that impounding proposal for the long term. But since there's a lot to consider, you mentioned Pampanga Representative Ana Bondok being apprehensive about it. So for now, the government has settled on temporary solutions that includes dredging activities at the Pampanga River. But President Marcos did emphasize, though, that this is a band-aid solution and a very expensive one, he adds. The president is now asking Congress to fast-track the measure for a Department of Water Resource Management. This is to ensure centralized response and planning to address long-standing issues like flooding in the country. Reg?
Thanks for that update, Mase.
After this quick break, road repairs across EDSA continue affecting traffic flow. Will the NCR's main thoroughfare be ready for the opening of classes later this month? We'll be speaking with IAC Chief Charlie Del Rosario about that. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News.
If you guys are having a manic Monday today due to the traffic, well, you're not alone. Motorists and commuters had to deal with ongoing road repairs in EDSA that will last until early morning of Wednesday. Asphalt overlays in at least 7 road sections along the EDSA busway are now done. But repairs continue in other portions of the highway, mostly in Quezon City, Mandaluyong, and Makati. A stop-and-go scheme is also being implemented to help ease traffic and accommodate the EDSA carousel buses changing lanes. Alternate routes are also available for private vehicles. The bigger question now is whether EDSA will be ready to handle heavier traffic once classes begin later this month.
Let's discuss the situation in EDSA some more with the Interagency Council for Traffic, or IAC. We have IAC Chief Charlie Del Rosario joining us over Zoom. Good evening po, Chief.
Hi, good evening, ladies.
Okay, so it's a Monday. Kamusta po yung naging traffic kanina? And how are the repairs going? Any chance that will finish faster?
Well, as stated this morning, at saka consistent naman yung output ng ating work, no, with the DPWH and MMDA reporting. We are on time, we are on schedule. Medyo nagkaroon lang ng konting disturbance sa weather this afternoon, but we are not looking na magiging dahilan ito for any delay. But as of this time, ang IAC have not received any information as to whether or not mag-extend. We are still looking at Wednesday to be the completion date, no? So unless there will be other developments.
Sir Charlie, tanong ko lang, no, will this, ang tawag nyo nga dito, one-time, big-time road repairs. So, etong repairs ba, magtatagal hanggang kailan? I mean, meaning ko yung quality ng repair, pang matagalan ba yung nilagay natin na pang-cover doon sa mga potholes sa EDSA bus lane or busway?
Yes, well, on the pavement na ginamit, no? So asphalt overlay yung nakikita natin dyan. For your information, all asphalt overlay na project, around 10 of that sa EDSA tapos na. So nagagamit na rin yung may asphalt overlay. Ang hinihintay na lang natin yung curing period nung 16 other projects, no? Nung reblocking. Now, as to the quality, of course, DPWH will be better to state that. But I'm sure yung nilagay naman dyan would be our quality materials so as to expect na magtatagal po yan. Now, on the exact period of how long it would serve, well, I will let the engineers of the DPWH answer that question.
Sige, Sir Charlie, ganito na lang. Aling areas pa yung hindi pa gawa ngayon para maiwasan ng mga motorista natin sakaling they're listening to us right now? Which I understand, parang sa northbound lane mostly ang naiiwan?
Yeah. Oo, northbound from, we have the North Avenue. This is near the two big malls. Hanggang dun sa Kaingin Station natin. So yung mga bus natin, lumalabas sila, dun nagbababa at nagsasakay sa curbside ng ating EDSA main carriage. No? Hindi pa nagagamit talaga yung busway. Kasi meron pa dyan yung binubuhusan at saka kinukuring. So it would take another 2 days to 3 days. No? So tama-tama by Wednesday, na-cure na yan. Hopefully, hindi nga maapektuhan ng weather na nagkaroon ng konting drizzle kanina or malakas na ulan sa southern part ng EDSA.
Speaking of the busway, there have been reports of private cars using the EDSA busway. There were some netizens posting, such incidents on social media. I was wondering what you guys were doing about it, Charlie.
Yeah, actually marami, marami na rin kami nahuli for the past 3 weeks. Hindi bumaba sa more or less 700 apprehensions together with the MMDA and together with the Philippine Coast Guard and LTO. LTFRB is there also. So hindi yung 2 weeks na operation namin, hindi kami bumaba ng 700 apprehensions, no? So we are not tolerating this. Alam naman po ng ating mga nagdadrive o mga road users na dapat kung bus lane po tayo, sa bus lane lang ho or bus lang po ang pwedeng dumaan dyan na duly authorized by the Land Transportation Franchising Regulatory Board. So tuloy-tuloy naman po yung operation natin dyan.
Speaking of apprehending vehicles, I believe motorcycles have been fined already for taking shelter underneath the flyovers kapag umuulan, kapag matagal sila doon. How has that progressed? Have we seen any effect on the traffic? And ano na po yung naging behavior po nung mga riders po natin?
Of course, that activity is directly under the MMDA, no? Sila yung nag-i-implement ng patakaran na yan. We should understand that the I-Act is now concentrated mainly on the busway. But alam nyo, kanina nag-ikot ako during heavy rains and napansin natin, no, yung dating sinisilungan ng ating mga motorcycle drivers, medyo maluwag kanina. But I'm sure MMD is finding ways and means to give them a more convenient place kung saan pwede silang sumilong during heavy downpour.
Charlie, may isa pa. Yung kabilang side naman ng EDSA, yung bike lane, laging maraming motorsiklo. May plano bang huliin din tong mga to? Kasi delikado talaga pang bisikleta. I honestly feel, Charlie, no, that some motorcycles feel that okay lang for them to be in the bicycle lane. Na basta bike, motorbike, at saka yung pajak na bike, pareho lang sila. Pero it's not the case. And then pasok-labas din sila doon.
Napapatupad pa ba? Oo, kasi nung pandemic, napaprotektahan yun ngayon. How is it?
Well, we are still there. We have meron kaming isang team, no? Medyo constraint lang yung ating manpower right now. Pero meron tayong team dyan na nagbabantay. And just to be frank about it, marami ho tayong nahuhuli dyan. Hindi lang ho napapublicize, pero marami ho tayong nahuhuli dyan. Hindi lang talaga siguro nasanay yung mga tao na wag gumamit ng bike lanes. But we will be intensifying yung ating operation dyan. No? And we should remember that I-Act is duly deputized by LTO. And pag nahuli po ng I-Act yan, na gumagamit ng bike lane, which is prohibited po dahil nga bike naman, bike lane po yan, ay hindi lang po yung multa. Yung multa madaling bayaran yan. Ang mabigat po dyan yung demerit points na maibibigay doon sa driver. Pag umabot po ng 40 demerit points yan, revoke po ang driver's license.
Alright, so sir, okay na tayo lahat ha. By August 29, magbubukas na po ang karamihan sa ating mga paaralan. School starts already na ang EDSA by then?
Well, we are looking at that. No? So, yung schedule naman by Wednesday. Ang sabi po ng DPWH, we are, by that time, completed na yung projects nila. That's the timeline given to us, informed to us by MMDA also. So, wala pa naman ako nababalitaan or any information na mag-extend sila.
Buhol-buhol, ano? Sana matapos na itong EDSA repair, tapos laging umuulan, may pasukan pa. Hopefully, we reduce that before August 29.
And then gusto niyo papahuli lahat.
Oo, gusto niyo papahuli lahat para lumuwag yung
cyclists, private cars, lahat na lang, huliin.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, I-Act Chief Charlie Del Rosario. Some bad news for Maynilad customers in parts of Cavite and Las Piñas. The water concessionaire has announced that the water interruptions in these areas will continue until November 2. According to Maynila, the daily water service interruption is scheduled from 5 p.m. to 6 a.m. These same areas in Cavite and Las Piñas have been facing water interruptions since June 28. This is still due to the replacement of 3 of 14 ultrafiltration membranes at the Putatan Water Treatment Plant 2 to maintain optimal filtration capacity. Residents, however, continue to express their worries about the extended water interruptions.
Sa Maynilad, magsasabi siya na mawawala ng ganitong oras. Kaya lang minsan, doon sa oras na sinasabi nila, hindi naman tumutugma. Kahit mag-iipon, kulang pa din. Kulang at kulang talaga para sa whole day.
Question now is how many residents will be affected by the continued water interruptions? Let's find out from Brian Basa. Brian, go ahead, please.
Hi, Regina. Manila estimates 43,000 customers will be affected by the 13-hour water interruption beginning tomorrow. These residents are from 4 areas in Las Piñas, 9 areas in Bacoor, Cavite, and 2 areas in Imus, also in Cavite. Manila is urging these customers to store enough water and, whenever services resume, let the water run briefly until it clears. Fire trucks are also on standby to bring water to barangays that will suffer from the supply cut. Back to you.
Thanks so much for that update, Brian Basa.
All right, another quick break for now, but right after that, Marikina is looking to sue a drone operator that displayed an inverted Philippine flag at the closing of the 2023 Palarong Pambansa. The details when we return. Keep it here on One News.
You're also watching the big story here on One News. Controversy marred the closing of the 63rd Palarong Pambansa on Saturday. In the middle of the drone show that was part of the festivities, the colors of the Philippine flag were interchanged. The red portion was placed on top instead of blue, which means the country is in a state of war. The Marikina local government was quick to condemn the incident, saying that it is also looking to file cases against Drone Tech PH, the operator of the drones. Under Republic Act 8491 or the Flag and Heraldic Code of the Philippines, violators may face a fine ranging from 5 to 20,000 pesos and imprisonment of not more than a year. For their part, Drone Tech immediately issued an apology. The company said they weren't able to test the drones beforehand due to the bad weather and signal interference in the area. They added that it was an honest mistake and that they didn't intend to put organizers and the city in a bad light. Marikina has since established a fact-finding team to investigate the incident.
Kung malalaman na meron talagang pagkakamali na sinasadya o di naman sinasadya at kung may liability based on sa batas na meron tayo, RA 8491, we will file the necessary legal action. We will be compassionate enough, understanding na kung talagang honest ang pagkakamali at di naman sinasadya, then maaari mitigated yung circumstance.
Heraldic law. Let me just repeat that. Reverence and respect must be given at all times to the flag, the anthem, and other national symbols. Not a lot of people know about it.
That's true. Actually, meron ng previous incidents dyan yung naglagay ng flag sa taas
Sa
ng
kotse. Hindi naman pangtakip.
Oo. Tapos in 2016, Facebook actually committed the same snafu. Parang yung nila, yung Happy Independence Day nila.
Nakabaliktad.
The red was on top. Yeah,
Innocent
parang naalala ko
mistake.
yan.
Pero I think,
I vaguely recall.
baka tong heraldic code is here to make sure na mas maging maingat tayo no, sa pag-commit ng innocent mistakes. Kasi carelessness is, di ba, if you're taking an exam in school, carelessness is still a mistake.
Although ako naman, ang take ko naman, baka minsan kasi parang, pag napansin mo sa ibang bansa, they use their flags also as a source of pride in uniforms,
Yung di ba
in
minsan
their
sinusuot pa
merchandise.
dito? Yeah.
Oo, dito parang bawal. Bawal din sa advertisements. I mean, we're not allowed to use it as often as we want because it's supposed to be held in high
Sacred.
regard.
Yeah.
So yun yung dito minsan napapaisip lang ako.
So apart from that flags na, kamusta naman yung Palarong Pambansa? NCR pa rin ba yung winners?
NCR because they've been,
still the champions.
They won. I think they were ahead by a huge margin because of gymnastics. So NCR won 33 golds in gymnastics that put them way ahead. Courtesy also of Carl
Yung kapatid
Yulo.
Yes, yung younger brother ni Kaloy Yulo.
Yeah, who swept all six events, showed tremendous promise. Western Visayas came second. Nanalo sila daw sa volleyball and basketball.
Ay!
Natalo nila NCR.
Yung mga top sports natin dito sa bansa, pinaka-popular sports natin, of course.
So again,
malaking bagay
in
yun.
total though, NCR gathered 85 golds, 74 silvers, and 55 bronze medals.
Okay, so 85 golds yung NCR. Yung second
In
placer,
total.
Western Visayas, 60 golds. So we're 25 golds ahead. Binibilang pa ba? Siyempre yung third place, no? Huwag natin kakalimutan, Calabarzon.
That's true.
And Cebu City is going to be the next venue of the
Palarong.
Palarong
I'm just
Pambansa
glad that
next year.
the Palarong is now back in action. I mean, pandemic, maraming athletes didn't get their chance. Now it's good to see young talent find their platform.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
At
scouts
ikapit ko na
also
dyan,
needed
ang
it.
baba daw ng budget ng PSC, Philippine Sports Commission. Kasi syempre, ito yung mga athletes na pupunta naman, I guess, sa international meets. Like,
Well, hopefully, right? They make it there.
I think they were asking for more budget for 2024 with the Olympics in Bay. We're looking out for that. So tama lang naman na we ask for more budget.
Yes, tama lang.
If we're looking to send more athletes.
Especially since we're coming off a lot of gold medals from the previous one, right, Gretch? All right, malapit na maubos yung ating oras. So before we go, time for our big picture tonight. All right, here, this photo is also a reminder as well for all our jeepney drivers and motorists across the board to fill up your vehicles before that big-time oil price hike tomorrow. Yes, there will be another one. Fuel companies have announced that diesel prices will be up by about 4 pesos per liter, while kerosene will see an increase of about 2 pesos and 50 centavos per liter, and gasoline will be up by 50 centavos a liter. In case you're wondering, this is the 5th straight week of upward price movements for diesel and the 4th straight week for gas prices. Experts, of course, have attributed the oil price hike, same reasons, production cuts pa rin sa Russia and Saudi Arabia and OPEC.
So with prices like this and the EDSA repairs, should we all just stay home?
Well, actually,
Pwede
there
na
were
sana,
already like 2. Should we just stay home? I wish, right? But there have been 2 proposals from like transport groups. We know Piston has been pushing for subsidies and fare hikes. I think government has said that they will give
Well, they're
subsidies.
certainly looking into it for now, right?
But Autodap, they want to just increase the rates when diesel prices climb by more than 7 pesos, which sounds fair to me. And I think it's climbed more than 7 pesos already. Pero tatanggalin naman daw ulit pag nag-roll back. So sasabayan lang yung price movement.
Huwag magkalimutan magpagas. Yun ang pinakamahalaga.
Before 6 a.m.
Oo. And just since before we end the show, I mean, let us explain why we haven't used it tonight. Something to look forward to also.
What's with the red, you mean? What's with all the red?
So, Gretch, explain.
Well, we're 1 hour already.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Because
the big story is
we
now
can't help
1 hour.
ourselves. You know, we have a lot more questions to ask.
There's definitely like way too many things that we still have to talk about, but
a lot more to cover.
But that will have to wait rather until tomorrow, because that's it for the show tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in and have a good night.